Welcome to Culture on Tap. We are a podcast that is about bridging the cultural gap one conversation at a time. We have myself, Xavier Bright. We have right next to me Dale Young, and the man behind the camera is Range Armentar. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share on anywhere you listen to or watch podcasts. Make sure to hit the bell so that you get notifications whenever we have new content coming out so that you can tap in with us.
Yep. So today we, of course, have Fun Facts with Range.
Mm-hmm.
This is one I don't think you knew. He probably doesn't. Admittedly, he might not. I think he's going to agree. But Range would say wearing a V-neck shirt, you might as well not be dressed. Like it's showing off.
I remember having this conversation before.
Yeah.
I do
Like he won't wear it.
somewhat remember.
No, I will not wear a V-neck shirt, but I basically only wear
Polos.
collared polo shirts,
Which is basically.
which is basically the same. I get it. I mean, it's basically the same thing, but I wear my collared polo shirts with an undershirt,
Yes. He will wear a
a
white.
round collared
Yeah.
Round collar.
Yeah. Round collar. Like there was a third
undershirt.
What would be the third? Well, if
Well,
it's
they
not-
have undershirts that are like tank tops, or they have like
Right.
V-neck undershirts.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Not for this guy though.
So, is there just security in the buttons? What's the?
With the polos,
Yeah.
I
Oh, is it because you have a white T-shirt underneath on,
no, yeah, absolutely.
and you don't wear your?
I don't wear my polos without
You
an
won't,
undershirt.
because your wife tried to convince you.
She wants me to, but it like I put it on and I feel
Weird.
weird, very
Yeah.
weird.
So it's not an
No, I
option.
get that.
No, it's not an
And the
option.
good news for you is the V-neck's kind of gone. Like
I mean, I still wear V-necks.
I mean, but you don't wear like the deep V-neck.
No,
like
no.
Now it's mainly just the high V-neck.
Yeah.
But like, so you wouldn't
No.
even wear the high one.
No. No. I don't. But I don't do many T-shirts. Like, it's just not. I mean, I have a T-shirt on today, but it's very.
Fix
it's
your-
a rarity
fix your
that-
sleeve.
Do what?
Fix your sleeve.
Oh.
There we go.
Nobody else can see that except for y'all. But it's a rarity that I don't have a collared polo style shirt on. But
But you like if you're going out, you want a collared on
yeah, for
collar
sure.
shirt.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I don't know why that is. Yeah, it's just one of those weird things.
Quirks.
It's
Yep.
it's quirk. Yeah. That probably could have been my quirk
Mm-hmm.
from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
But
because you like, have you ever wore a V-neck?
no. No, never.
So you don't even know what it feel like. What if you
What if you liked it?
secretly?
Like just
enjoy
the little extra space there that just made your neck feel
Just
like,
thinking about it like makes me want to like no, it makes me squirmy just thinking about
there you go.
that. Yeah.
So,
So
Yeah.
yeah. No V-necks, collared shirt with an undershirt 90% of the time.
Oh,
Like even like to work and like to go outside to work and things like that. For sure. I'm that's what I'm comfortable in.
polos
Polo
all
Yep.
day, every day.
with an undershirt.
Wow.
actually, it's going to be Under Armour 9 out of 10 times. Or
Most times it's going to be an Under Armour shirt.
Are you sponsored by them or
No.
something?
he should be.
I should be. So if Under Armour's listening,
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he wears Under Armour shoes, Under Armour socks. I think even Under Armour drawers, right?
I do.
He's an Under Armour guy.
Yep. So not sponsored yet, but
One day.
One day.
One day.
we'll get there.
Oh,
There's
beautiful.
another fun fact.
Fun fact with Range.
All right.
Beautiful. Well, today we have a pretty serious topic.
Yeah.
Before we get started, we are not clinical therapists.
No, not at all.
We are not, giving advice in the sense of from a therapeutic standpoint. This is strictly off of our experience, but also what we see in Scripture.
Right.
Just wanted to throw that disclaimer out before we get started so that,
Yeah, because if you are one of those things like we are not trying to pretend that we are, or that we
understand the deep things of what's going on internally, psychologically, or anything like that. That is not our heart with this. This is just something that
we are wanting to more or less address depression from the way we feel culture looks at it and the church.
Yeah.
Not as much on how to help you. Not that we don't, if you want to put in the comments that you struggle with this, we want to be able to pray for you and help as much as we can. But I would say if you seriously struggle with depression, you need to seek more educated and professional help than we could either offer.
Absolutely. For sure. So I wanted to throw that disclaimer out before we get started. But we can just jump right into it. What comes to mind whenever you think of depression?
For me, when I think depression, my initial thought is weak-minded. Not that that's what I actually think,
right?
But I feel like the way and the culture I grew up, the people I was around, sad truth, church people, was you're being weak and you need to pray through this and
pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make it happen.
Yeah. If you're sad today, decide not to be sad.
Yeah. Cheer up.
Cheer up. Thank God for who he is and move on. So that would be mine, is weak.
I think the initial thought, and maybe it's just because my own struggles, I think of King David.
Okay.
I think of Psalm 13. I think of Psalm 42, because that's where I spent most of my time over the course of the past 5-6 months, just kind of bathing in those. I think of King David saying, light up my eyes, not light up my lies. Light up my eyes. How long, O Lord, will you forsake me? How long will you hide your face from me? Why, O my soul, so downcast? I think of all of these very strong terms,
right,
of how he was struggling, and most scholars believe that these are signs of depression that King David struggled with.
So a man after God's own heart, arguably, would be the poster child from the Bible of struggling with depression. Would you agree with both those statements?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know you agree with the man after God's own heart, but
the giant slayer.
Yeah, the giant slayer had a massive giant internally that was slaying him.
't so that's the initial thing that comes to mind. I think it's a very real thing. A real thing that Christians and non-Christians struggle with, whether it's clinical or not. It's a very real thing, a real issue, because we live in a fallen world, and this is just a part of the fall. One of the struggles that we have to endure for our lifetime, at least on this side of glory, which kind of leads into our other question: is depression? Do you view depression as sin or a sin?
I definitely view depression as a sin, because I think anything that takes us away from the holiness and sanctification of God is sin. However, I don't think that you have to be. I don't paint this picture that you are this sinful, not pursuing God person because you're struggling with depression.
Yeah.
I would say any ailment on us is sin, like death, sickness. It's all from the weight of sin.
Yeah.
So yes, I do think it's sin, but I don't think someone that struggles with depression is an unrepented sinner. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's a huge difference between the two.
Yeah.
But I do think it's sin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely a result of the fall.
Right. Whether it's self-inflicted or not.
Right.
I think there's both.
Right.
It does not matter to me. It's both are still sin. but it's a result of the fall. I think that's a good way to put it.
And I mean, I think I actually saw somebody post this and get drug like through the mud. It was a few weeks back. Somebody posted on Twitter. Basically, if you're depressed, you don't have enough faith. And if you are depressed, you don't need medicine. You need more faith. And it's just like,
it's just a sad statement.
Yeah. I mean, they got that work.
Good. Good, because it's a stupid statement. So you like, well, and to me, this is the side nugget. Until you've experienced something, don't speak on it. And I'm not saying like I'm never going to experience certain sins.
Yeah.
I like me and my wife will never choose to abort a child, and I'm not judging anyone that has chose to do that. I'm just saying I will not know what it's like to do that or to have to even consider that choice.
Right.
However, so I'm not saying we all experience things, but if you haven't experienced what it's like to feel, whether it's clinically depressed or just depression because of things going on in your life, we can both, we're going to speak into this, like it's life altering.
Yeah. And
it will open your eyes to how you felt about certain things. Like, I know it changed my life, my perspective, because I would argue, I don't know that I would ever been that brazen to say that, but I would say, fight it like you fight anything else. Like, you're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that you can't be. I think you can, but it's not that simple.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. It's definitely not as simple as that person tried to make it. And it's just so, first off, unloving.
Right. Even if they did have depression and they feel like they've conquered it, then why are you're not helping someone celebrate with you? And
it almost like this person wanted to fight. Right. Like, because there's things that you say that you may not mean, like via email or text message, or like in this instance, but it's like they meant.
Yeah,
they meant to draw blood.
You might not have realized you're gonna get banged up that way, but you wanted controversy.
Yeah. Why do you think depression is such a big issue?
I think it's two reasons for me. I think that one, for the first time, I think people are more sympathetic and understanding to people that have depression today more than they ever have been. Yes. So I think that has opened people to be more honest about it. Secondly, on the negative side for me, I also think that there are a lot of people that are quick to throw out the depression label on people that might not be depressed.
For sure.
So I think that's why it's such a big issue. I think everything like leads to, oh, I'm depressed.
Right.
And it's scary because like me and you do speak at youth conferences. We did one a couple weeks ago. This summer we'll be speaking at a youth camp. And I would be willing to bet 95% of the students in there will say they struggle with depression. Or what we'll talk about next week, anxiety. Yeah. And I'm not going to say that that's not partially true because of the culture we live in, but I also think it's because it's so easy to tag labels onto people.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So that's my. What about you?
Yeah, I think what you opened with is what I think is the biggest issue in depression. Just the word, it presupposes weakness. So you can't be weak here.
Yeah.
You've got to capitalize on your opportunities and you got to make things happen. And any sort of weakness that you show is just not okay. And when people see depression, whether clinically or just because of circumstances in life, you're seen as weak.
Right.
And there's no redeeming factor in that. If you're seen as weak, you can't make it happen. You're not hireable. It's just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and make things happen, and it's
fake it till you make it.
and it's just like that is not helping anybody.
Right.
That posture, even if let's just talk about like not even depression, just people in general.
Yeah.
Like who are, healthy in the sense of, they don't have any ailments or whatever the case may be. It's just like that doesn't help anybody.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? But I think a big issue is, like, as for instance, Jesus, in the Sermon on the Mount, he says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." Right? And I think when we talk about depression, and I'm not saying that, Jesus was depressed by any means whenever he went to the Garden of Gethsemane, but he was clearly wrestling with some negative emotions.
Right.
Right? He was clearly like wrestling, and I think us wrestling with negative emotions isn't necessarily a bad thing as a Christian.
Right.
And I say that because Jesus wrestling with negative emotion, first off, it showed that he was hurting and he was in turmoil, like he was toiling with his emotion. But nobody, at least nobody that I've heard of, ever thinks, oh, since he has these negative feelings right now, he must not trust God.
Correct. No, that's good.
But why, when somebody is wrestling with depression or negative emotions, why do we automatically assume that they don't trust God?
Right.
Like Jesus was wrestling with the fact that the first and second person of the Trinity was about to be separated.
Right.
But we don't think that, like, he didn't trust God. No, he did. He actually said, "Thy will be done."
Like he's literally fixing to take on the weight of sin, and he trusts God that he's going to come through this.
Right. But it's like what that shows in having that negative emotion, it shows our need in the midst of a fallen world.
Right.
Because if we didn't see that, would we appreciate Jesus for who he is?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like with just because someone struggles with depression, whether clinically or not, first off, it doesn't automatically mean that they don't trust God. It just doesn't. But also, too, there's hope on the other side because it's like, maybe they don't see the hope in the midst of it. But just from a biblical perspective, it shows our need for a savior in a fallen world.
Right.
And that we should embrace that.
Well,
but it's not embraceable because the big issue of depression in our culture is that if you struggle with it, you're weak and you don't trust God.
Right.
Does all that make sense? I know.
No. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I think that goes back into, if you're someone that wants to see someone come through the other side, do you think you have a better chance of that if you make them feel like a failure, or that there's faith and encouragement in you that you're going to help them stand? Don't kick them in the butt to stand up.
Right.
Like say, I will hold you up while your legs are weak.
Yeah.
So this isn't in our notes, but why, in your opinion, because I actually have an opinion, it's not factual. Why do you think people are more open to hear that people have depression now than ever?
I think it's just the generation that we're in. Even though we are disconnected, we are more connected with people all across the world and different issues that are going on via social media. And whereas the older generation, whether it's boomers or Gen Xers or whomever, like, they didn't have the luxury of social media. However, also, like, there's just it seems as though as a whole, it's just a lot more closed off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas people are emoting on social media.
Right.
They're talking about real issues. They're talking about abuse. They're talking about all of these things that's going on, and nobody can just stay scot-free whenever you have people connecting from all over the world that are sharing similar issues or similar struggles. You know what I'm saying? So I think social media is a huge part of why.
Yeah, I definitely think that's it. Do you think that, for me, a part of it, this is just my theory, so many iconic people in the past few years have committed suicide out of depression.
Yeah.
And people are like, I assume they had it all together because they had money or they had fame.
Right.
And I think seeing different actors, musicians that have done these things, whether it's drug induced or just taking their life because of what's going on, I think it allows people to go, well, they don't, just because they have all this stuff, they don't have it together.
Right.
Because I mean, even I think about, I don't know how many people have seen this. There's a musical called Dear Evan Hansen. It's not a Christian musical. It's not meant to be a Christian musical, but the whole thing is about depression and the choices that people will make out of anxiety and depression. And it's extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's such a big issue because, one, like you said, on the positive side, people are allowed more now than ever to speak their truth. On the negative side, people are so ugly towards it. So it's a huge hot topic.
Yeah. No, for sure.
What are some false beliefs on depression that you feel like, again, this is not us, this is not a clinical psychologist. We are giving what we believe are some false beliefs towards depression that we are seeing.
Yeah. I think, for one, that people who are depressed are weak and they're incapable of, living a normal life because they are weak. But I think, two, a false belief would be, and you kind of alluded to it, like I have this picture in my head of someone who has dealt with a death in the family, like a close death in the family. Whenever you go to their house,
right,
like there's trash everywhere,
right,
there's mail that hasn't been opened, there's dog crap,
right.
It's just messy and dirty. What we do, like, and that's a picture of someone, like who may be depressed. What we do is we go in, we don't knock on the door, we drag them out, we close the door, and we never go back in. That's our approach.
Right.
Like, get up. Like,
right.
Get to going.
Right.
Like, you've got work to do. You've got this to do. You've got that to do. And you know what? We're just going to leave this house. Just get out, get some fresh air, and you'll be fine. Rather than, and obviously this is figuratively, rather than sitting with them there.
Right. Not cleaning while you're there, just sitting.
Sitting with them there.
Right.
Right. Letting them know that they're seen.
Yeah.
Letting them know that they're heard. Letting them know that they're wanted. And then slowly but surely, it's like, hey, let's get this trash.
Right.
Like let's get this, and it's a lot of trash, upstairs and downstairs. We got a lot of trash to pick up. You know what? Let's go through some of this mail. And slowly,
right,
loving them, right, pursuing them. It's not just going to be one foul sweep of, whether it's like, let's not deal with it at all, right, because you got to come home.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's the picture that I have in my head. And it's like, the false belief is, let's just leave their home where they're at. Let's leave all the crap and let's get them out. And we're just going to keep moving. And that's just not reality for someone who struggles with this. It's not possible. Let's sit with them. Let's then begin, and that's where the clinical therapists come in, by the way. You can't just start cleaning things if you don't know.
Right.
You don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? But I say all that to say, false belief is, let's just get them out and let's just pull them up. You gotta be stronger. You gotta keep moving. And it's just not reality.
Well, and so what I would add to that, first thing I would add is if you are someone that needs a therapist, I would encourage you to make sure it's a Christian therapist, because I do not agree with a lot of traditional therapy at all. And I even would say be careful with the label Christian therapist. There are people out there that carry the title Christian therapist, the Christian therapy, and are not. The goal is not to push you towards Christ.
Yeah.
It's to use some catchy Christian words, but still just do regular therapy. That's just for you. Go to whoever you feel you need to. But as a Christian, again, the ultimate goal is to see a professional that is pointing you back to Jesus. But what I would add on the false belief is that your situation has anything to do with their situation. I think too often, I have been through something, and then we see someone else walk through it, and we're immediately gauging how long they should struggle, or if they're justified in the way they struggle. You don't know how they operate. God created you different than them, and it's not your job to help them walk, like to tell them how to walk through it. Your job is just to be there when they're ready.
Yeah.
I mean, not trying to, we've both struggled with this at different times, but like, for example, you last year, it was very apparent to me that there was something off.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter if I saw it. You needed to see it.
Yeah.
So I would constantly ask you, hey, how are you doing? And you would say, I'm good. And I tried to make it a point that, like, that's not true. Like, I just like, okay, well, just checking on you.
Yeah.
And you finally, between your wife knowing you and different things and prayer, you finally came, like, oh, I'm struggling. Like, and I've clearly been struggling for a while, because a lot of times you just don't even know, like, what's going on inside you.
It was just circumstances of life that were weighing on me, and I had a lot of blind spots.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, wow, this may be a real thing. Huh.
Well, and I think it's more than blind spots. I think it's, you had some dark spots.
Yeah.
And you've got, like everything else, we get used to that.
Yeah.
And so the next question would be, what does pursuing Christ in the midst of depression look like? Again, this is just our
biblical take.
Yeah.
Like, you can't stress this enough. We are not clinical therapists. But just from a biblical standpoint, what I see in Scripture is, again, going to Psalm 42, verses 5. It says, "Why are you downcast, O my soul, and why are you in turmoil within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him for my salvation." David isn't dismissing his depression. Not at all. He's saying, though this is present, I will continue to praise. And you even go to Psalm 13, which I spoke about a few months back. David asked very direct questions based off of his situation.
Right.
One of them was, why are you hiding your face from me?
Yeah.
And like, that's anthropomorphism, where it's adding human characteristics to who God is and the character of God. And we understand God to be spirit. So whenever David is saying, why are you hiding your face from me? He's basically saying, you are not present.
Right.
You aren't present in my situation. You aren't, like, you're not here. So how long am I going to have to wait?
Right.
And then he goes on to say in verse 3 of Psalm 13, he says, light up my eyes. And he wasn't going blind. He was still the picture of youth and vitality at this point. He wasn't going blind. Most scholars believe that he's talking about he's being, like, he's depressed.
Right. He wants
like,
to find
light up my eyes. My soul is dim right now. But then you keep on going in Psalm 13, and even though he's frustrated, even though he's questioning, he says, but God. And that shift, but God, I have trusted in your steadfast love. I know that you are near. I will rejoice in my salvation all the days of my life. He's not negating his feelings.
Right.
Right?
Right.
He's feeling what he's feeling, but he's remembering the facts about who God is. And I think that is key. And again, I believe that this can happen with medicine, and I believe that the Lord can heal. But just like we get a cold and we got to take Benadryl or Zyrtec or something, I believe that some people at this point have certain disorders and things of that nature where they have to take medicine to be able to function.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that you just need to believe the facts about God and not take the proper whether precautions or necessary things in your life to actually be able to function. But what I am saying is whether you're on medicine or not, feel what you feel.
Right.
But remember the facts about God. I also talked about basically our emotions being horrible drivers.
Yeah. I was wondering if you're going to go there.
Yeah. Like our emotions it's like putting a car seat and allowing your 2-year-old to drive your vehicle. It's just absurd. Your emotions belong in the car.
Right.
They don't belong in the trunk of the car or outside of the car. They belong in the back seat. And the facts about who God is belong in the front seat, driving the car. So it's like that's another picture that I've been using for the sake of, okay, I'm emotional right now or whatever, but I need to put my emotions where they belong. Yes, I need to feel what I feel. I need to feel this, but at the same time, I need to remember that God is, first off, he's the God of my salvation. He's abounding in steadfast love. And I need to remember who he is in my life and what he's done in my life and what he will continue to do in my life for all eternity. You know what I'm saying? So that's my little tidbit.
I mean, you covered it. The only thing I would probably add to that is, and this is something me and you have been talking about a lot lately, choose joy. And here's what I mean by that. Like I'm not saying, well, because you're depressed, choose joy and don't be depressed. I'm saying choose to have as much joy every day that you can. And if you're walking through something, maybe ask questions like, why am I walking through this? Why am I struggling with this? And I would even say, don't dilute the things that you come through well, and don't overanalyze the things that you don't. And here's what I mean by that, because you brought up David. And here's the thing that's always, for me, like been mind-boggling. So here's David who, in my opinion, clearly is struggling with depression in different areas of his life. But one area where I felt like he walked through maybe better than anybody I could ever see was when his first son was born to Bathsheba. God tells him, your son's not going to make it.
Yeah.
And it says he fasted and wept and like laid on the floor for days without eating, like to the point where they were concerned for his health, begging God to allow his son to live.
Yeah.
And the day they tell him, your son died, he gets up and eats and worships. And they said, what are you doing? And he said, I made my plea to God, and God answered the way God felt he needed to, and now I will worship him anyways. So there's this moment where he comes through and you're like, so how can you walk through this like this? But then and here's the thing, we all have things that trigger us, and sometimes we just don't know. So I think sometimes one of the things that get us in depression is like, man, I've been so good for so long, and now I just feel like I can't get out of bed. Like, both ways draw on the Lord.
Yeah.
If you walk through a storm and you feel like you could not have walked better, praise him.
Yeah.
If you get in another storm and you feel like you are drowning at the bottom of the ocean, call for him.
Yeah.
Both are needing him the same amount.
Yeah.
And so I would just encourage that. And I think a big thing is, and this is for anyone, don't try to walk through it alone. If you are in a church that makes you ostracized ostracized because you struggle with depression, find a new church.
Yeah.
If you're in a church that basically wants to give you 10 steps and then you failed, find a new church. Find a church that's going to love you as you walk, as long as you need to walk, and through this thing, because it could be forever on this side of heaven. And so, God has made you, and sin is still here, and it's something that we will struggle with on this side of heaven. But I would tell you also, don't believe the lie that this is who you are. That's not true. That doesn't mean you're going to conquer this thing, but it doesn't mean, like, I also would encourage you not to just make your mind up that depression is who I am.
Right.
I've heard too many people go, well, my mom was depressed, my dad was depressed, so I have to be like, that's, God made you perfect and holy. You have that ability. God did not create you with predetermined sin in your life. Now, being around patterns is a different thing. There's a whole nother conversation, but God can help you conquer all things. And even if you can't conquer, God can help you find a place of worship like David did in spite of his depression.
Yes. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's a great closing point. Again, this is just our biblical take on it.
And if you have any encouragement, please put it in the comment.
Yeah, for sure.
If this is something you need us to be praying for you, please put in the comment. We want to be praying for you.
For sure. You are seen, you are loved by us.
Absolutely.
But more so by the creator of the universe.
Amen.
He sees you, he hears you, he loves you. This has been Culture on Tap. Thanks for tapping in with us. We will see you guys next time.
Thank you guys. Love y'all.
Culture on Tap is sponsored by Houston Radio Platinum, playing the best classic hits. You can download the Houston Radio Platinum app. It's in your app store, or just ask Alexa to play Houston Radio Platinum.